Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Back to the TARDIS podcast, the show where we take a look at every single episode of the 2005 revival of BBC's Doctor Who. I'm Jeff.
I'm Skylar.
I'm Avery. Yeah.
And this week we are discussing Series 2, Episode 4, The Girl in the Fireplace by His Excellency and Terror himself, Steven Moffat. In this episode, this is Mickey's first episode as like a regular ass part of the TARDIS crew. Also, the Doctor gets into some shenanigans in 18th century France, and surprisingly, considering that this is a Steven Moffat episode in 18th century France, it's not as horny as it could have been.
But it should have been hornier.
I mean, there are levels, but yeah. Anyways, there's an in medias res start to this episode where you just see Renette, a real life French figure, yelling into a fireplace for the Doctor, at which point roll credits. Yeehaw. So yeah, and we cut to a seemingly completely unrelated spaceship where Mickey and Rose and the Doctor are wandering about, and they find a fireplace from the 18th century that's like not a hologram, not a reproduction, actually an 18th century French fireplace. And he discovers that somehow the fireplace turns around and leads to 18th century France, where he meets a young Renette. And he has this, Skylar, you commented earlier that you can see Moffat doing a lot of things here that he's done better or worse other places. And I think the most smacking one is like, in this scene, there's the classic Moffat trope of, oh, surprise, the monster was in the room all along. And B, the dialogue that he has with young Renette is like slightly less wacky 11th hour.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking at the very beginning, and it's a thing I have throughout the whole thing about like the idea of a kid being visited by the Doctor and how that impacts them. And I mean this in the highest compliment way. This episode made me immediately after I finished it made me want to watch 11th hour, even though I did that like I think last week or the week before that for the like Twitter watch along thing that
I haven't been doing any of those. I'm a fake fan, I know.
No, it was fun, but yeah.
Aware. I'm the most on Twitter person out of you, and I have done them, so.
Fair enough.
And I've only done one of them, but yeah, it's classic Moffat stuff, and I guess it's a compliment and an insult that I think he does it better someplace else, but it's a fine moment. It's a good episode, yeah.
Yeah. Anyways, so yes, it reveals, and the other thing I'll say about this episode is that I love not only the monster idea of clockwork robots, but also just how the robots were realized. Like later on, when the Doctor's doing his usual like, "Oh, you are beautiful" shtick, like, yeah, that's actually some really fucking good prop work. And
yeah,
modeling
honestly,
work,
though,
like it.
Did they get someone in who like actually knew clockwork to do that? Because that was really cool.
Yeah, it looks really impressive.
And I'm also entertained by that idea that he brings up of space age clockwork. Like how much more advanced can we make clocks? Clearly a lot. Like this idea of even something we think of being as a like quote unquote complete technology. Like even those can evolve and change, and it's not just like we're gonna get more spacey, magic-y space stuff. It's like no, even like basic things can get like more elaborate and complex. Yeah.
Yeah.
I do like their look more than... I mean, I haven't watched Deep Breath, and obviously there's a very obvious connection there, but
Oh, yes.
from memory, I do like the look of these more than the kind of clockwork machinery that we see in the one guy who's like...
Though
to
be fair, something tells me that half the reason why they don't look exactly like this is it would give the game away.
Yeah, obviously, but it's... Yeah. I don't know, similar design elements. I appreciate some level of continuity, even though this show, like,
has no continuity.
Barely has it. So,
anyways, also a foreshadowing to how 11's tenure would go, where there's the line where 10's like, even monsters under the bed have nightmares, and Renette's like, what do they have nightmares about? And 10's like, me! Which is,
That's a
which
good
is
fight.
No, it's good.
Like
it's good here. I'm just thinking of all the times in 11's tenure where either the Doctor has a big speech about who he is, or the Doctor says who he is and everyone runs away.
Yeah.
My point is the trope got overused.
Look, we've already established that I'm a big 11 stan, so maybe that's why I like it so much, just because in my mind I'm like linking it to 11 episodes, and I'm just like...
No,
yeah,
it is. It's got much more of like where it's going, of where the series is going to go, than Empty Child does, or than Blink does.
On that note, it's like...
Even more than I think the library would
Oh yeah,
show.
Totally.
Like, yeah.
Like
it is the most like this is where the show is going to be in 5 years.
Even outside the Doctor and like Moffat's other tropes, like the dynamic of Rose and Mickey. First of all, it's a little weird that like Rose is kind of now fine with him being there, fine with Mickey being there. She's like enjoying it, but like as the episode was going on, with the exception of a few scenes, I was like, I would really enjoy to like see an alternate universe where this adventure had Amy and Rory there, because that dynamic, in my opinion, would have like slot in like neatly, with the exception of like a few scenes. I don't know. It was
this was just writing practice for that.
Yeah.
Also, Rose was tolerable in this episode. Yay! I enjoy it while it lasts.
Her scene with Renette is probably like either my favorite or second favorite scene, which is like rarely is my favorite scene in a Rose era Doctor Who episode a Rose scene.
Yeah. Oh boy. I will say my main major complaint about this episode, and I know Avery is going to reach their fist through their internet connection out the camera of my MacBook Pro and strangle me for this, but this episode does kind of suffer from 45-minute syndrome. It doesn't need to be like as long as like a classic story was, or a two-parter, but an hour-long episode would have fit this better. I don't know if I'd have noticed this as much either, but like I've been watching a lot of Westworld while I've been holed up at home with nothing else to do, and those episodes are all an hour to an hour and 20 minutes long, so this episode felt like it was going way too fast. Like, oh my god, it like I looked up like after like a few minutes, I'm like, wait, it's almost over.
Yeah, it's almost like, I feel like what's really well done is the episode does a good job of showing how Renette, or like anybody who has this unique type of relationship with the Doctor, would grow to be like, I don't know if you want to use the word like infatuated, or almost like not obsessed, but like something like that. And yet the Doctor feels like he gets to that point too quickly because of how long the episode is. And I have to like say in my head that I don't think any other Doctor except 10 would like feel what happens this emotionally. Like, I don't think 9 would like go away from this adventure, or even 11. If this was an 11th Doctor episode, I don't think that would have happened. 12 certainly not, and 13, who the hell knows. But
13 has very little character,
consistent characterization. Chibnall doesn't need that
character in a Chibnall episode. Anyways,
say it ain't so.
Anyways,
Every episode, Chibnall just rolls a die to how he's gonna have his characters behave.
We need to start a drinking game for whenever we just like randomly dunk on Chibnall.
Anyways, I want to push back on what you guys are saying. Just, I don't believe it suffers from 45-minute syndrome. I think it certainly keeps a brisk pace throughout, but I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. And I think, yeah, maybe, they could have expanded it more if they had more time, but at the same time, I don't really think it's necessary. Like, maybe I would enjoy a bit more, but I don't, when I watch the episode, I don't find anything lacking, and I don't think the brisk pace hurts it at all.
You know what? No. I'm about to you know what? You just triggered my trap card, motherfucker. I would like to point something out, and this really bothered me. So we go from him saying hello to young Renette and having the scene in that room, then we go back into the ship timeline where he takes a look at the robot and reveals the clockwork and is like, oh, it's beautiful. And then he goes back in and she's an adult, and that's the scene where she kisses him and he goes back, and that just feels extremely uncomfortable to go to that. Like, I feel like another scene or two in between there would have been better. As it is, it feels really uncomfortable.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say...
Because she was a kid literally like 2 minutes ago.
Well, I mean, like, talking again with what Moffat does better in his first series, like, when Amy tries to kiss the 11th Doctor, I'm not giving a spoiler warning, shut the fuck up. When
it's 10
when she
years
tries
old,
to do
there
that,
is no need for spoilers.
Exactly. When she tries to do that, he, like, freaks out. He's just like, whoa, like, a couple of days ago, you were, like, I don't know, like 10 or whatever, like how old she is when he meets her. And here it's just like, 10? What are you doing, bud?
This needs like 15 more minutes just to space stuff out, because there's brisk and then this is going a little bit too fast and making me uncomfortable.
There's brisk and then there's diet brisk.
Okay, I can agree. Okay, I can agree to that. There could definitely have been another scene in there. I'll agree to that.
I'm still salty they cut the deleted scene with the horse. That is so funny.
I didn't get around to watching that. Oof.
It's just like, don't wander off.
Anyways. Mickey and Rose are exploring, and they find that the ship has had... This is also a really neat idea, which actually I think gets done a little bit better in Deep Breath because they pay more attention to it there, of just the horror of mechanical ship that has resorted to using human parts to fix it.
Yeah, I kind of wish we saw more. The security eye camera and the heart is like creepy, but I would have liked to see like, bone or stuff like that. I mean, it probably would have gotten it too high rating, but it's...
Damn, y'all really chipping into my 10 there. All right. How dare you? How dare you give me logical?
Yeah, it's a good episode. I'm going to fucking limit break on your opinion that this is a 10 out of 10, because it's not. It's got some flaws.
Yeah, okay. You're pushing me a little here. You're pushing me a little. Because I don't know. I guess I agree. It's just something that sort of it gets sort of hinted at the midpoint, and then like it revealed at the end and isn't developed much in between.
Yeah.
And I to sort of, that idea Skylar's been bringing up of like done better in other episodes. I feel like, God, what's the episode in 10 with like the emoji robot guy?
Oh, Smile.
Yeah.
A surprisingly good episode considering what it's about.
Yeah, that episode, I feel like that does that sort of idea a lot better. Of like, oh, robot gone haywire, kills the people it's supposed to help. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh man, I just realized that episode was written by the same guy who wrote In the Forest of the Night. Yeah, that could have been way more cringe than it turned out being. Oh boy.
Praise be.
It's a pretty good episode, I won't lie.
Yeah, no, it's definitely, as I said, Series 10's midpoint kind of sucks shit, but the beginning of it and the end of it are really good. Anyways, back to the episode. So Skylar, okay, I hear what you're saying about the deleted scene with the horse, and that does sound like a really good scene, but at the same time, having him just appear back on the ship with the horse is really funny.
No, it's funny both ways. Yeah.
The horse is just
I don't know.
there.
I just enjoy it. It's still the horse is still good. I am not berating this horse. He did, she, they, whatever horse pronouns they prefer. Did a wonderful
Gender
job.
is a social construct, and horses are not human.
True. But anyways, the breaking through the CGI glass notwithstanding, it's a good horse. Yes.
Yes. And that's the CGI glass isn't the horse's fault. It's the
definitely not. So
anyways,
he's just a part of it.
The doctor meets up with Mickey and Rose with the horse, and they figure out that the clockwork robots have basically open time portals to various points in Renette's life, to try and find a point where apparently she is ready, complete. There's also a really great line earlier on where he figures out what he, like, they find the fireplace and he comes back around, and the doctor's like, it must be a spatiotemporal hyperlink, and Mickey's like, what's that? And the doctor's like, no idea, just made it up. I didn't want to say magic door.
Okay, gotta admit, there are some great lines in this episode.
Oh,
like,
no, dude, again, the dialogue is great. In most of the again, I'm not saying the episode's bad, it's just not quite a 10.
Yeah, no, I know. But there's some, like, amazing lines in this.
Yeah, there's some
It's
banger
classic
dialogue
Moffat's
in this episode.
snappy dialogue.
Yes.
It works.
Back before Moffat got cringe.
Yeah, I don't know, that is knowing this is written by Moffat makes a lot more sense now. You know, I never pay attention to, like, writers and stuff.
Your own damn fault. They appear
like,
on screen during the title sequence every time for, like, 10 seconds.
Do you think I look at the screen when I'm watching things? But yeah, it's just, like, it makes a lot of sense just because, like, the flow of the dialogue feels a lot more like an 11 episode. That's just, like, my sort of observation. And just, like,
I mean, that also doesn't help that in many ways 11 is kind of 10 light, hot take. Anyways. Oh yeah, also there's a great line which is like real France hours, where the doctor explains that Renette, aka Madame de Pompadour, was one of the mistresses of the king of France, and where's the line? Oh yeah, the doctor's like, yeah, no, the king's already got a queen. She plans on being his mistress. And Rose is like, oh, I get it, Camilla, which is probably a reference to something that I'm too much of a dumbass to get. I'll probably get yelled at on Twitter about it.
I didn't get it either, yeah.
But there's the great line where Rose is sarcastically like, the queen must have loved her. And the doctor's like, oh, she did. They get on very well. And Mickey's like, the king's wife and the king's girlfriend. And the doctor's like, France, it's a different planet. The French be horny. What can I say?
This is also like the last king of France, right? If I'm not mistaking the timeline.
Hold on.
It's obviously one of the later ones, but
Let me look up Louis the 15th.
oh no, wait, this is early 18th century. Never mind. I'm dumb. That wouldn't happen until the 19th.
No, the one who got guillotined was his grandson.
Yeah,
Louis
no,
Yeah.
this is mid French period.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. And I call myself an ex-history major. That was embarrassing.
Yeah. Sun King is Louis the 14th. Guillotine guy is Louis the 16th. This is the middle one that no one really cares about.
It goes.
It goes
I
guillotine.
mean, let's be fair to him. He seems like pretty fine. He's just like, well, you know, I have my mistress and I have my queen. I guess she has like the Lord of Time, so that's fair enough. Like he's smart about it.
If I remember correctly, he's just sort of a really inadequate kind of guy who just like racked up a fair bit of debt.
Oof. Anyways. The doctor comes in with a fire extinguisher and freezes the clockwork robot that's about to that is walking towards Renette menacingly. Anyways, and it teleports away, and the doctor's like, Rose, take Mickey and Arthur. And Rose is like, Arthur? And the doctor's like, good name for a horse. And Rose is like, no, you're not keeping the horse. The doctor's like, I let you keep Mickey.
10, your 9 is showing.
Yeah. Also, the horse's name is Susan SMH.
Isn't that...
What?
Oh yeah, that's Town Called Mercy.
Town Called Mercy. Y'all
Yeah.
are fucking fake gamer girls. This was a bad joke. Moving on. Anyways.
Oh, yeah, and then Rose and Mickey
Oh yeah, so the
get
doctor
captured,
mind
as
melds
you
with
do.
Renette, and she pulls the like biggest flex by like reaching back into his mind while he's trying to examine hers. Kinky.
This reminded me of like the Moffat, like, oh yeah, the doctor likes it when women are like clever and unexpected with him, and all I could think of was
That's his fetish.
how this could, like, this exact scene could play out with the like governess version of Clara, and like nothing would be changed.
No, that's like his weird fetish. It is. I
because it's 10, he's
now.
even more hornier than 11 usually is. So
yeah, because 11 is unintentionally horny. Like in the way that like he's not like actually, but he just sounds like he is.
yeah. 10 is lawful horny, 11 is chaotic horny. I think we've established this.
Yeah, 10 just like absolutely did just fuck her. Like, let's be real.
Yeah, no, I was reading on the Wikipedia where in the commentary, Moffat is like the dance was the use of the word dance is done as flirtation. It's not innuendo. There, pay no attention to the man behind the curtain.
Sure, Moffat. We know your tricks.
Don't pay attention to the man in the couch moment.
Yeah.
Boy, what was that joke you made last week about how the frame rate and flat lighting makes it all look like it's porn?
Yeah, no, I wasn't sure what it was before. I had a feeling it might have been the frame rate, but I mean, I'm pretty sure it is now, just because it has that like weird, like too smooth look, like where it's in this awkward valley between like movie appearance and like real life, and it just
and also it's specifically it's not true like 50 or 60 FPS.
Yeah,
like it's like they're just using like double the frame. Actually, no, it's interlaced. That's what it is. It's interlaced.
That's where they
I'll
like
default to your
recorded at
knowledge here.
That's where they like you recorded at a lower frame rate, but then like set it so that there's a blended frame between the two. I think.
Yeah. You well, what happens is it blends two frames together basically, which doubles the frame rate without consuming extra bandwidth.
Huh.
Anyways. So yeah, interlacing is not like a thing anymore, but like it definitely was earlier on. But yeah. Anyways. So yes, Renette like basically like pulls him off to dance headcanon both meanings with her. Meanwhile, Rose and Mickey have been captured. And Rose is... I love how every time Rose is, like, trying to improvise, she's terrible at it. Just the worst. Where she's, like trembling and, like, trying to be like, oh, like, the oncoming storm, you should all be super afraid of him. And then he, like, staggers in shit-faced with, like, sunglasses and his tie, like, tied around his head.
Yeah. I mean, it's pretend shit-faced, right? Because he's doing the second Doctor thing of trying to make them think he's a moron.
Okay. My headcanon is that he actually was shit-faced. They can just metabolize alcohol faster, so it goes away quicker.
That could also be true.
Because it's funnier if he's actually shit-faced.
Yeah.
Also the line, I think I've just invented the banana daiquiri a few centuries early.
They didn't even have bananas. This is why you always bring a banana to parties. That gave me strong Hitchhiker's vibes, except with a banana instead of a towel.
I chose to believe the banana was also semi-innuendo. That's just what my brain went to.
Oh, of course it is. Also, Rose is like, oh, look what the cat dragged in, the oncoming storm, which is probably the best line that Rose, or at least the best joke that Rose ever gets in the entirety of her time on Doctor Who. This is it, folks.
Thanks, Moffat.
The best one. So the Doctor explains after calling the robots thick 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 times, and their dad. He explains that the reason why they're looking for Renette at a specific time is because the ship is 37 years old, so they think that once Renette is 37, that means her brain is ready, and that's what they want. They want her brain to power the ship's computer. And of course everyone's like, well, why are you going after her? And he's like, well, I don't know. Does it really matter? And I love how, like, you think this would matter more, but they don't. They just manage to Moffat manages to get away with deferring it to literally the last shot of the episode.
Yeah.
Which is a real baller move.
I like to think that these, like, clockwork droids or whatever you want to call them aren't like, they're like very minimal functioning VI or like virtual intelligence stuff, so like when things go to crap, they're just like, okay, what do we have? Well, we're named after this chick and everyone else is dead and we don't have a computer, so might as well. This is just like the dumbest thing, but I like it. It makes sense. Especially because most of them think heaven is real, apparently.
And then they follow it up with one of the ass-pulliest ass pulls, where he pours anti-oil into the robot's head. How the fuck where did he get that from? He didn't go back in the TARDIS. Did he just have it the entire time, just in case?
Dimensional pockets in that coat. Dimensional pockets. I'm telling you.
Also, he's trying to pull out like random piece of tech, and he has a throwaway line where it's like, "Where are they? I had them a minute ago. I was using them as castanets." And they figure out that they can't close the windows because there's still one on the other side, and there's a failsafe, so you can't close it. Finally, technology working properly in this show. And we get into Skylar's best scene, where Rose goes to Renette and warns her that in 5 years there's going to be some real shenanigans. I guess, Skylar, I'll let you talk about this since you said this was your favorite scene.
Sure. I think it shows Rose in like what I would like to ideally think of her character as someone who's like starts out way out of her depth and just like an ordinary like lower middle class maybe young woman, but she's like experienced all this stuff, and now she's kind of talking to someone who's like basically in the exact opposite situation as her, like very wealthy, but they're coming at it from the same perspective of not knowing what's going on at first. And I like that, and I don't know, it's a fun interaction that you don't really see most often. It's the doctor that's like solely interacting with the historical figures or what have you, and the companions are just kind of like ancillary to that. I'll actually give Chibnall credit in that the Nikola Tesla episode was like an episode where I think that was also done well. But yeah, it's a great scene, especially with Renette going to the future briefly, and at the very end their mutual understanding of like, yeah, the monsters are terrible, but like he's also worth it type of thing. And it's also very nice coming off the back from school reunion, kind of. It's kind of the only through line that I think actually kind of connects, because as I said, Rose doesn't seem to mind that Mickey is with them now for some reason. Whatever.
Yeah. Whatever. Sure.
So yeah, but yeah, it was just a really nice moment. And again, like David Tennant is always good, but I've always kind of disliked the more like very human side of him. Just in that I'm like, come on, dude, don't have sex with a girl who like an hour ago you were meeting when she was like 10. Like that's a little weird. So
when's that gonna show up on a Struggle Tweets account?
Yikes. But yeah. Ooh. But yeah.
Topical humor.
But yeah, David Tennant is great, but in my opinion, like Rose in this scene and the one where she thinks she may have like lost the doctor forever to like whatever, you know, Billie Piper brings a lot in this episode. She isn't given much, but it's her scene with Renette is by far my favorite because both actresses are just giving it their all. So yeah, that's my big gush. I don't know. That scene is a 10. Everything else is like a 9 and an 8. So what have you?
Yeah. So the doctor figures out that he can't get to Renette, and so in a last-ditch effort to save her, he jumps the horse through this mirror and out into a ballroom in one of the worst CGI shots of the entire series. Like, I think it's partly because they focus on it for 10 seconds in their slow motion, and partly, I don't even know if it's CGI, it's just like composited weird, where like the shot, like where he's like the horse and like the hole in the window where you can see the ship set looks fine, and then the shot of the ballroom looks like weirdly dark and grainy, and like it gets like really like smeary and motion blurry, and it just looks really bad.
Yeah, it's probably the only effect that I think actively looks dated. Everything else is fine.
Also, because it's a mainly other than that, it's basically an entirely other than that, and like the shots of the spaceship, it's a practical episode. Like the clockwork robots are practical. The stuff with time shenanigans and the fireplace rotating is practical. The stuff with like the fire extinguishers, that's practical.
Yeah.
So
I think the only episode more practical than this is Love and Monsters.
Oh God, no. God, I'm not looking forward to that.
It's good. Hot take. It's good. We'll get there.
Sorry.
Yeah, it's a good budget saver episode. Anyways, so the Doctor has his moment, and then he points. He's like, okay, so the links have been severed with the ship. So I'm stuck here now, and part of me is like, oh, how sad, and then the other part of me is like, A, heaven sent, B, like all the times in like EU canon that like 8 or someone else has been stranded and they've just waited like 300 or whatever years. Like, it's not like a Blink situation where he has Martha who's going to age, or like there's an active like problem going on. Like, the robots are dealt with. He can just wait for like however many thousand years. He'll be fine. But what happens is Renette shows him that actually the fireplace was still working the entire time. So this part is 10 out of 10 raw Kino Poggers I cry every time, where he's like, okay, pack your stuff, I'll show you the stuff. Actually, no, I take that back. This isn't raw Kino Poggers 10 out of 10, because I just had a realization. This is Amy Pond.
Exactly.
He reused the exact same shit. God damn it.
And it's better this time because he doesn't want to fuck her. I'm just gonna say it.
You mean it's better in Amy's case?
Yes. Sorry.
Oh boy. Yeah. Okay. Now that I think about that, yeah. No, that's
also
okay.
This is the biggest ass pull in the episode, because the idea that it's like, oh, it's not connected to like the rest of the ship when you moved it. I'm just like, okay, that's no. Like, even if you moved it, there's still the other side of the ship there. How did you move it at all? It was just like, again, it's one of those just go with it moments, but I was just like,
yeah,
okay, you gotta get him back to the
it.
future somehow. The runtime's almost over, sure.
Yeah. 45-minute syndrome.
But it's still emotional, so.
But what is a raw Kino Poggers scene is the scene where he comes back and has this very understated dialogue with King Louis XV, where she's died and it's all sad and gray and rainy, and they have this very understated small conversation. Like that, those 3 minutes there are pretty sick. That's really good. And then him just walking back sadly, doing the sad tenant face. Y'all know the one.
Yeah.
And they're like, why did they think we could repair the ship with the head of Madame de Pompadour? And the Doctor's like, we'll never know. And then it cuts to outside, and shows that the ship rotates, and you see that it's named the SS Madame de Pompadour, which honestly doesn't feel like an ass pull. Like, sure, okay, cool, not bad. Yeah. That's good. I especially like I especially like that they held it back until the end of the episode. Like, they didn't go with it. They didn't even do it at like at the climax. They did it at the literally the last shot in the episode. I didn't think they would have gotten away with that, but they did.
I think just to add on to what you were saying, Skylar, about French colonists in the future, it sort of it reminds me of, God, no one's gonna No, I highly doubt anyone who has actually read these books, but the sequel trilogy to Ender's Game.
Oh God, I've read
I
like the
have
first.
not
I read like
read them. No.
define sequel trilogy, like the Speaker of the Dead stuff.
Yeah, Speaker of the Dead.
Yes. Okay, I haven't read all of those, but I've read Speaker for the Dead, and then it starts to get off track, and I couldn't stand Orson Scott Card being a fucking homophobe.
Yeah, no, okay, those books are actually like super good. They're better than the original. Just my humble opinion.
Yeah, no, they are. They are. It's just Orson Scott Card kind of sucks.
Yeah, no, for sure. But just I'm referencing just the basic premise here, which is just that they finally find a sentient life again, and it's on a colony, and it's a Portuguese colony. And
Yeah.
I don't know why, but that just brought my head there. Like, oh yeah, colonialism still exists in the space age. Haha, that kind of sucks.
Yeah, no, that has stuck. That similarly too, that has stuck in my brain. Man, I wasn't expecting to pull back. I haven't read that book in like fucking years. I think my parents just got rid of their like super beat up like 1980s paperback copy. Jesus. Fuck. Okay.
To rewind for a second, I like how when 10 walks back to the ship, there's an interaction which, again, it reminds me a lot of 11 and Amy and Rory, this line where it's just like, hey, are you fine? And he's like, I'm always fine. And it makes me, I forget the episode, but it's like, hey, are you okay? And 11 says like, hey, of course, I'm the king of okay. Like, just that idea that it's like...
Again, Steven Moffat.
I don't even know how to put it into words, but that interaction was really good. That's all I have to say on that. I don't know.
Yeah. Anything else anyone has to say before we move on to ratings?
I like Mickey in this episode.
Yeah,
Yes.
Mickey's good. In general, Mickey is good because Mickey is a good person. Yeah. Again, Rose was good. Rose was
Every
good.
character that's named in the episode is very good. Even Louis the 15th, he's just sort of there in the background, and then right at the end, he has that great performance.
Yeah, he's just vibing. Any. Anyways, so yeah, I guess moving on to ratings, this episode is really solid. While I as I said, I have complaints, and I think like many episodes, it suffers from 45-minute syndrome and could use an expansion to an hour and the few scenes that could add in. I think what's there is still good enough that it works beautifully. I think it's a solid 9 out of 10 and a very memorable episode for reason, and definitely a highlight in this season. Like, this season has a bit of a rocky start, but I think here through to... Oh, fuck, where's my episode guide? I'm gonna get yelled at on Twitter again, because I'm not a real fan. Fuck. There you go.
You're about to get made fun of by Emma for not knowing.
And you call yourself British.
I don't!
Oi, lads, I'm Geoff.
That was entirely Petra's thing. I didn't do that. I don't know what the fuck is going on. How cringy was that accent?
Oh, talk to the morning podcast listeners. Geoff is just a wee little bit of a twist.
you guys are being more cringe than I am. Stop.
That's our
I
job.
I think I have at least a serviceable accent. Anyways. So yeah, I guess, yeah, from here, with the exception of Idiot's Lantern through to Love and Monsters, this we're in like a very solid chunk of season. This is why I needed the episode guide, because honestly, who gives a fuck where Idiot's Lantern is? Who gives a fuck about Idiot's Lantern? God. Anyways,
True.
9 out of 10, really solid episode in a somewhat shaky season.
Cool.
Who's going next?
I can go next. Yeah, this is a really good episode. I'd even be willing to call it great in a few aspects. The concept is interesting.
It's great.
It's all
it's
the
a great
props.
episode, man.
Yeah, sure. The props, that sounded dismissive. The props are great. The acting is all on par, even as was mentioned, Louis the 15th. There's just some things, and this might just be like hindsight syndrome, but like everything that I enjoy is just done, mostly so much better later. Yeah, Moffat's, writing tropes and such also do get worse later, but again, just having recently rewatched 11th Hour, you can see that he's workshopping concepts that he'll later perfect and then overuse, but still they will be better later. But yeah, Rose is great. This is an episode where I enjoy, where I actively enjoy Rose as opposed to tolerating her or having no opinion or actively disliking.
I'm surprised by how good Rose is.
This isn't the best of Moffat, but this is good Moffat, and it's a taste of what is to come. So yeah, 9 out of 10 for me.
Yeah, I mean, as you know, I went into this, thinking 10 out of 10, but you have made some convincing arguments to the contrary, but I still love it a lot. It's a very good episode. So, 9 out of 10. This is the first time we've all given an episode the same rating.
Fair enough.
One for the books.
There we go. We got a first. Anyways, I'm excited about next week, and not just because it is our first two-parter of the season, but also because we are talking about Rise of the Cybermen and the Age of Steel, which I've rewatched this one, not recently, but I watched it maybe not last year, but I've watched it since I moved away from California, which is really the bar of if I haven't seen it since before I left California, that's how you know it's been a while. I remember this episode being wow, this episode is really fucking dark. So yeah, I'm pretty excited about that. So yeah, we'll see you all next week for that. Until then, you can follow the podcast at B2TARDISPod on Twitter. You can follow me on Twitter at WheatleyDL, where I will probably be posting screenshots and random clips of my Final Fantasy VII Remake playthrough. Yeah. Sorry if I clog up your feed too much.
Yep. I'm Skylar de Pompadour. You can follow me on Twitter at skyhigh9_5 for all.
What if you
of
made
your
that?
hot
What if you
take-
made? What if you made that your Twitter handle, Skylar de Pompadour?
See who gets it. Probably no one.
Fair enough.
No, yeah. I mean, yeah, I'll do it. I'll do it for all of our lovely listeners because I love you and I will humiliate myself for your amusement.
I mean, it's as far as humiliation go, that's pretty tame.
It's getting off easy. I agree.
I know people in this call who have done way worse.
True.
What have I done? What's
I'm not even. Well, okay. For one thing, I was gonna. Well, okay. There is the cheese stick, but also I was talking about our friend who's chilling and listening.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. We appreciate you, audience. We appreciate you.
Anyways, I'm Avery, the big Avery, at Big Fat Penis 69 on Twitter.com.
Still not a joke.
Yeehaw.
And
After
we'll
6 weeks,
all...
it'll be established.
No, the joke now is me saying it's not a joke. It's canonized. It's official.
It's a running gag.
Until Series 12, when we retcon everything. Yeah, cool.
Running gag this dick, eh?
Got him! Anyways, we'll see y'all next week. So the doctor meets up with Mickey and Rose with the horse, and they discuss the fact that the clockwork robots have basically... Ooh, hold on. Nope. Okay. Thought I was going to sneeze there. Anyways, I'm just going to take that from the top because I'm just going to cut this whole chunk out. Oh God. Stop faking me out. What the fuck? I'm gonna like... Ow. Okay. No, punching myself in the chest didn't do anything. Moving on.